Hello, hello, guys. How's everybody doing tonight? I see our team is in the chat. Feel free to drop your questions, and if we have some time, we will go over those. Ooh, I'm echoing. Let me know if I'm echoing, guys. Hear me in the chat. Show me some love so I know you guys can hear me before I begin. How's the sound coming in, you guys? Are we good or are we echoing? Awesome, awesome. Hey, I see the tribe is in the chat. Hey, y'all. Thank you guys for joining. This is gonna be a good one, so go ahead and share this, live with, the last couple of people you've been talking to. Go ahead and share it on social media. I don't want anyone to miss this one, so I'll give you guys a minute or so to go ahead and do that so we can get into this. I'm excited about this one because I know this is, like, a long awaiting video, I think, for a long time that our people just wanted to learn a little bit more about it, and I finally have some time on my hands. I'm looking forward to covering these topics for you guys. And not this one, but many more to come. So make sure you are subscribed. That way you are able to receive notifications when we're on. And if you're a tribal member, keep in mind tribal meetings are coming up. We will be sending out communications in regards to that. Tribal meetings are private, so make sure you are on the list. There is a new list for tribal members and tribal meetings. Make sure you email us when we send out the communication so that you are able to receive the invite. Those meetings are private, meaning tribal members only, so you do have to be a national and or a citizen to be able to participate in tribal meetings. And basically, tribal meetings is where we just touch on things that are happening within the nation itself, just giving those of you who are in the nation an update and you know, things that we may have coming up, proposals, things of that nature. So you don't want to miss out on those. Even though tribal meetings are recorded, it is never guaranteed that it will be made public. So I always encourage you guys to make some time, whenever they are coming up. 'Cause that's really one of the primary things about you being able to participate and you use your voice within the nation. That being said, tonight, well, or whenever you're watching this is we're gonna be covering economic power, running a tribal business 101. To introduce myself, my name is Nnakina Xi-Amaru Fears. I am the chief of the Xi-Amaru Republic and the CEO of Aboriginal Ministry of Justice, and I will be your speaker tonight, and we're tuning in from Aboriginal Ministry of Justice. And to give you a quick introduction on who we are the Xi-Amaru people, and for us specifically, Xi-Amaru Native Americans, we are considered the pyramid builders of the Americas. And the best thing to sum it up on where we are now and what we're doing is Isaiah 58:12, which is your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairers of broken walls, restorer of streets with dwelling. Before we get into it, I think it's important to cover our vision as a nation. When it comes to our vision, it is to build a resilient and autonomous Yamaru nation rooted in God, knowledge, and guided by principles of justice, unity, and respect. We envision a future where our people are fully recognized, self-sustaining, and able to exercise their rights to an equal footing within the global community. The Chiamu Republic seeks to serve as a model of Indigenous governance, setting a precedent for cultural integrity, sustainable development, and harmonious coexistence. The Chiamu Republic mission, our Indigenous government is to empower and protect the rights, heritage, and well-being of the Chiamu people. We are committed to promoting self-determination, cultural preservation, and social and economic prosperity. Groups of sustainable governance, legal autonomy, and community-centered initiatives. We aim to create a thriving environment where our citizens can flourish and contribute positively to society. Getting into the objectives for tonight, we want to make sure that you understand the purpose of tribal businesses. So I will be explaining what a tribal business is, its recognition under the Xiamaru jurisdiction, and its exempt status in the U.S. jurisdiction. We will also be covering we will also be covering you will learn the core principles of a successful business in this presentation, where I will be covering, key problem principles, when it comes to identifying core principles such as problem solving, numbers, legality, records, integrity, and also we will follow the practical steps to launch your business. So I will be guiding you through forming a tribal business from purpose to bank account, including processing timelines when it comes to our jurisdiction. We're also going to cover how you can master basic money management. So learn, how to budget, separate your finances, plan renewal, and reinvest in profit, right? Also, we're going to be covering how to avoid common pitfalls, protect how to protect your brand and your business. So we're going to recognize the importance of legal documents, insurance, contracts, and building a brand identity. And we're also going to explore funding and scaling options for those who have a tribal business or considering getting one. So you're going to discover ways to start small, credits, seek grants, contracts, and expand sustainably. We're also going to cover the spiritual dimension of business, which is, I think, one of the major keys, specifically when you do start a business. So that's going to be exciting. And then just, a final closeout, and then we're pretty much good to go. So what you guys can expect after this is you're going to have clear definitions. You're going to feel confident and equipped. That's my goal. I want to make sure that you guys identify your next step and gain financial awareness while adopting a growth mindset and to be spiritually encouraged. Okay. So I'm here to educate, inspire, motivate action, and engage. And I want you guys to feel empowered. So that's really what this comes down to. That being said, what a tribal business really is. When it comes to a tribal business within our jurisdiction, it is a business entity lawfully formed and recognized under the jurisdiction of the Xiamaru Republic, identified as a tribal entity of the nation, acknowledged by the IRS, and operating as an exempt entity within the U.S. jurisdiction. It may be profit-based or nonprofit. And it serves both individual wealth building and national development. So specifically when it comes to types of businesses, it invites you guys to understand that there's many different types of businesses out there. Specifically within our jurisdiction, what we focus on is making sure that our people have the ability to rebuild when it comes to being able to express ourselves within society. This is one of our rights to basically be able to create institutions that are able to repair the damage that would happen to us as a collective. And one of the rights that we have as Indigenous people is basically the right to self-determination. And I think the best one taken from ADRIP stands for American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which is Article 3, which it talks about Indigenous people have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. So this plays a key role in us being able to exercise this right. why this matters to you. So, why this is about power, not just profit, we can understand the breakdown of economic justice, which is a ability for us to participate on our terms within the society that we live in, and job creation, cultural joy is also a key thing when it comes to us being able to represent ourselves and express ourselves in the way that we conduct ourselves, because business is not just a it should not just be considered something for profit, it should be also a form of representation. So, therefore, we can enjoy expressing ourselves just like every other group when it comes to how we show up in the world, especially within the entrepreneurial spaces. And job creation, of course. So, every business we form under our jurisdiction basically strengthens our nation's economy and creates opportunities for our people. That is why this is such an important thing. And of course, generational wealth, something for our children. I think what's important to think about this is, let's say, someone forms a construction company and was able to hire 3 other men from our nation. That's dignity restored, not just a paycheck, right? When it comes to mm, core principles of business, very powerful. I wanna walk you through the 5 principle, which is how to solve a problem, knowing your numbers, operate legally, keep your records, serve integrity. Give me one moment. For some reason, my just drop it in the chat, guys, if you can hear me, because I think it looks like I'm going in and out, but I wanna make sure that that's not the case. Can you guys hear me well? I see you guys in the chat. Show me some love so I know you guys can hear me. Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys for the feedback. I appreciate it. Okay, let us continue. Okay, let me just get back to my screen real quick. Okay, so getting into the core principles of business, right? Solving a problem. Every business must meet a real need, guys. Whenever you're talking about creating a business, don't just think about something that, you just wanna think about it from the profit side, but you should consider, if you want to have a successful business, consider something that will serve a need. Travel businesses can target community needs or global markets. That's the beautiful thing about what we are able to do. So even though we do offer opportunities within our jurisdiction, it doesn't necessarily mean that you only are able to serve our people. You have access to the global market. So you're able to serve, within serve other people in other jurisdiction as well. What I mean by know your numbers, price for profit while staying fair. You understand your profit helps sustain you and support the nation as well. So you wanna always know that you can't just think about keeping things cheap, which is something you normally don't hear, is because a lot of times when we think about going into business, we think, "I just wanna do something here," but you also wanna consider how are you going to sustain that business, and cash flow is very important for you to keep afloat. So you wanna know your numbers, price things, fairly, but also that you're able to sustain and support yourself and support the business as it continues to grow. Operate legally. Tribal registration keep you compliant, gives you protection not found under state law. So what do we mean by operating legally? So right now, there are businesses that are no longer a part of our jurisdiction. So let's say that they are offering services, but something happens to them, and again, um, let's say they're just pursuing to do certain things that are not legally, whether it was because they decided to close their business, but they're still using their travel documentation, then they would be in error and could face, legal complications in regards to that, especially when it comes to tax matters. So you don't wanna just have a business operating, especially if you decide to leave or close your business. So make sure that your business is compliant when it comes to operation, and if you have more questions about that, you can always get in touch with our team. We are here Monday through Friday, so feel free to book an appointment and get in touch. But that is very important when it comes to being able to have a successful business if you want to remain in compliance. Keep records. Good bookkeeping is essential. Right now we don't currently have a annual reporting, so keep in mind, because these tribal businesses are tax exempt, it means that you don't necessarily pay taxes to the other jurisdiction. And right now, those of you who do have businesses within our jurisdiction, you are in a moment able to continue to grow at this stage without taxes, but keep in mind that that will change because the whole point necessarily is for you to growing in this season, but eventually for the advancement of the nation, a form of taxation may come into play, but depending on when you're listening to this, that at this moment is not the case. But you wanna still make sure that you're consistently keeping your records, keeping things, in order so that you can remain in good standing long term, right? So, even though some things may not be required at this moment, that doesn't mean you should not keep things in order. So, keep that in mind, guys, and when it comes to this specifically, especially when it comes to your business. Now we do have what is known as the IRS Assistant service, if I'm not mistaken. So if you have a tribal business and you've been operating, you want to make sure that you go ahead and get that service done. You can learn more about that at aboriginalministryofjustice.org so that you know that you have the proper reporting when it comes to your tribal business. Because again, that is an annual compliance thing that you have to maintain with the IRS. No, you do not have to necessarily keep in mind when you are operating in our tribal jurisdiction, you are technically not making taxable earnings within the other jurisdiction, but we do need to have proper record of that and compliance with that to notify the IRS in regards to that. And we are still working on other communication and ways of connection with the other jurisdiction, but for now, we do primarily assist and communicate with the IRS through a specific process, which is so you can learn again more about that on our website. And if you have questions, get in touch with our team. We are here Monday through Friday, so you can always reach out if you have a business or considering. These are things that our team can answer. But for the sake of this video, because we're just talking about um, business 101, travel business 101, we'll keep it simple. But and serving with integrity, guys. Deliver value, treat customers well, and operate in a way that reflects Xiamaru values. The main thing that we've seen when it comes to this part specifically is many people assume that it is okay to have people pour into a business and not try to meet standards. Now, again, things can happen, that is normal, but we wanna make sure that we are consistently working to improve our services, consistently looking to serve our communities and others well. Do not get so comfortable with a type of service that doesn't meet standard just because you may feel like you have a specific demographic, because a lot of times that's what, we saw specifically, to be honest. One of the things that I saw within the previous jurisdiction that we were a part of is people really didn't care, when it comes to how they show up, especially within business, and that is just not acceptable in our jurisdiction. So you wanna make sure that you are being compliant, being respectful, serving people when you take their money, treating them with respect, not ignoring them, not, um, disregarding a service, feeling like they're disturbing you, like, that is not acceptable when it comes to our jurisdiction. So if you have a tribal business, you wanna make sure that you are running that business with the utmost integrity because oh, hold on. Can you guys hear me? Okay, let me see here. That could be how about now, guys? Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me better now before I continue. How's the sound, guys? Show me some love in the chat. I wanna make sure. Okay, okay, I gotta remember. I think I keep the that's me, guys. I gotta remember to turn on the volume on the computer when I'm doing this, but bear with us as we continue to get this together. But that being said, let's get back into it. So again, serving with integrity, to be honest, guys, is one of the most, I would say, one of the key components on keeping your business running long term. So many people get caught up in serving that one client that one time and forget that, you know, the real businesses survive through repeated clientele. So don't be the group or the people who think that, oh, well, you're always chasing the new client that you end up disregarding the customers that you already have. So you want to make sure that you're serving with integrity, being responsive, whatever you need to do when it comes to running that tribal business. And oop, where am I? Let me, okay, get back to my presentation. So for those of you who may be interested on how to get started to get a business, a tribal business within our jurisdiction, here are some practical steps to get started. Decide your purpose and your model. So again, it can be so technically our businesses are for profit when it comes to you starting a tribal business, but if you want to operate a non-profit within our jurisdiction, the prices are the same at this moment. So you just go ahead and you will be able to request that. But primarily when you are requesting a tribal business, it doesn't mean that it has to be non-profit. It simply is a for-profit business, and we do operate that within the other jurisdiction. Technically, within their jurisdiction, it is viewed as a unincorporated association, tribal entity. But within our jurisdiction, we do ask what industry this business will be going into. We will be asking how other things will be handled. So you want to make sure that you're doing that, okay? So, and that's again, before you take that next step, decide your purpose, why you're going to be doing this, and the option you will be using. Then from there, you want to pay your fee. And we do have reduced fee if you are a Xi-Amaru Native American. After payment, you will receive your virtual application in your portal. We normally respond within 1 to 4 business days after you submit your payment. So bear with us, guys. When it comes to these services, they're not one, like, you don't just start something and then you're gonna get us back. Our team has to assign you and put you in our system. So keep that in mind if you do initiate that process. And then we handle the rest. Once we have the application, depending on the processing option that you chose, then we will be completing and getting the documentation ready for you. And again, this option, this type of business model is not only available for those who are in our jurisdiction. Fee varies per people who are not in our jurisdiction, but anyone can have a tribal business within our jurisdiction, as it does support the advancement of the awareness of the Xi-Amaru Republic and also pretty much support our advancement overall. So even if you're not within our nation and we do highly recommend you consider this business model as an option. Now, processing time, like I mentioned, we have we have standard processing, which can take up to 60 days. We have expedited, which takes 30 days, and we now have express, which takes 7 to 20 business days. So depending on your options, again, fee may vary based on the option that you choose, but that will be the expectation when it comes to getting your documentation. And then finalize your articles. Don't forget, guys, especially when it comes to once you receive your documents, make sure that you review all of them, making sure that your business information is accurate, making sure that anything that may need to be addressed, as even though we try to make sure that before we send out everything that they're reviewed, but again, error can happen. So you want to make sure that you review everything, and then once you confirm that everything is correct, you want to go ahead and send back your articles to us, and you can learn more about that on Aboriginal Ministry of Justice. But basically, you should e-file your document because there is a document that you do have to sign. Now, we do include instructions in your folder when you get your document, so you don't have to worry about that. But just make sure that you follow all the instructions when it comes to having your documents. And then open a bank account, guys. So whenever you're going to open a bank account, you want to make sure that you understand you need to keep your personal and business finances separate. So in our case, when it comes to running a tribal business, you are supposed to open an unincorporated business association. And we are currently working with some banks to possibly get them on to have a conversation that you guys may be able to tune into, but those things are in the work. But when it comes to opening a business bank account, again, it's an unincorporated association. You can gain access to those accounts on mostly the banks that are available would be the most of the older banks. So there's many banks, but you always want to go ahead and give a call. That's the best way to deal with that. Is you want to reach out to the bank. So a couple options. We primarily like to choose Chase, but you have American Bank of America, you have PNC, you have many other banks. And if I didn't name one of the bank that you may be already banking with, all you have to do is give them a call and ask, "Hey, do you guys offer unincorporated business bank accounts?" And they will let you know if that's an option. If not, just reach out to our team and we will be able to give you a little more insight on where you can go, but a quick search can help. And as we continue to grow, we're working on bringing you guys more information, but it's a very straightforward process. We do include instructions when you do get your documents. And we do recommend that the day that you are planning to go in, that you set up an appointment, that they know you're coming in. And also feel free to set up an appointment. It does need to be a paid consultation because our team is able to be on standby basically for you if you need any assistance when it comes to, you know, maybe sometimes, to be honest, a lot of people are not even aware or familiar with these types of bank accounts, even though their branches offer them. So you want to understand that that is a possibility, but do not be discouraged. Our team is here. So again, we do recommend that you set up an appointment that day and just notify us that you will be going in, working to get this resolved, and our team will be available to you for that. And again, it has to be a paid. Do not do a 15-minute appointment because we will not be able to be on standby. So make sure you pay that. And even if it's not the exact time, um, even if it goes over a little bit, we will still be able to serve you, but just notify us ahead of time. And from there, guys, set up your operation. After that, get going. Okay. That's all you have to do. Once you get your documentation, it means you're good to go and you can start selling, which should be your primary goal. Do not just hold your documents, do not just keep them. You should go ahead and start operations immediately. Now, key thing I do want to mention, guys, is when you are considering starting a business, well, a tribal business, or to be honest, any type of business, you want to consider the business address that you're going to be using for your business. Right now, that can be a big issue, primarily if you do use a virtual address for business. They do give you some issues when it comes to banking, but you can, in some cases, use your personal. But keep in mind during this process, when you are submitting your application, if you put your home address on that application, that is possible to be public record. So you want to consider getting a virtual address or getting, a lease or something of that nature for your business. That step is very important to prevent, especially when you're going to be receiving, sending out receipts or collecting payment, that address will be reflected. So you want to make sure that you're running this business from the very beginning, not having your personal information going out to the public. So keep that in mind, especially during the setup process when you're doing everything. Make sure that you are acquiring and again, virtual address is out there. They have many different payment plans for you. Now, keep in mind though, because we will be talking about grants a little bit, but if you're going to be consider pursuing banking, grants opportunities, you do need to have a lease at a business, like, you have to have an office. Those are things that are required when you're going through those process, so keep that in mind, when you are now, again, not all, but in most cases, they do require certain information, so you just wanna be mindful, especially in the setup process when you're gonna start this business, how you're gonna create it, and this is not to overwhelm you guys. I don't want you guys to feel like, "Oh, it's too much work." Our team is here to help you, but we do recommend just giving us setting up an appointment before you start, just so that you don't just start the process and then, you're kind of stuck because you probably wasn't thinking about certain things. And we are working on getting more people involved. And our team right now that we have, they're wonderful people and ready to serve you. So feel free to get in touch with us. But you want to make sure that you're considering all of these things because how you start will determine how things continue to grow. So you want to make sure that you're taking this step very serious when it comes to running a tribal business. Okay. Now, to learn more about a tribal business, you can go to aboriginalministryofjustice.org/tribal business. And that is where you can also start the process if you are interested. Money management made simple, guys. So when it comes to money management, of course, budget. Now keep in mind, guys, I do believe business is more spiritual, but these things do help. Okay. So when it comes to budgeting, you got to know your startup costs. How much is the registration fee? How much, will it be to maintain your address, your whether it's a virtual address, a physical address, you need to know how much that's going to cost. When it comes to your email, that is something. Please do not be out here using a gmail.com. Like, don't use Gmail, don't use personal email. It looks very unprofessional. So you want to incorporate that into your process. You also want to go ahead and consider getting a website. These are things that are necessary when it comes to running a business that can be, one, respected and can scale. You won't be able to scale if you're not considering these things. Now, keep in mind, your business will give back to you what you put into it. Okay, so you want to always keep that in mind. So if you're considering going into business, I always say go all the way if you can afford it. Now, of course, it's not easy. I'm not here to say it's easy, but you want to just consider the basic things, especially in the beginning stages, on what's going to be necessary. Just do a quick search on how much that will cost you and just consider putting that into your current budget until you get services going. But that is something you definitely want to just know your primary things that you're going to need to cover so that you can grow. Okay. And then from there, guys, I do want to emphasize separating finances as protection. Now, what does this mean is use your unincorporated business bank account. It's really that simple. And you can pay yourself, but for the most part, when it comes to starting, because again, this is tribal business 101, because this is assuming you're still in the beginning stages, you do want to make sure that you have a separate account. Don't start using, because again, also as you're building this business, when you have your bank account, you're creating history. One of the biggest things that banks and other people look into when they're considering funding is your history within the organization, because they want to know that this isn't just a business that's going to disappear tomorrow. So you want to consider, and the best way to show history is the length of your business. So don't wait after you start your business, then not create the account. Go ahead and make sure you have your account open, and so that that could just start building up history for you. And of course, reinvest, put profit back into growth, staff, and tools. To be honest, guys, it's not easy, especially when it comes to, especially when you're just starting out. It takes a lot. But I always say, you either invest or you don't. You're gonna be responsible to see this grow. And putting profit back into growth, staff, and tools is really how you keep going. It's how it's gonna grow. Don't expect that you're gonna just gain everything right away if you're not investing in your business. It doesn't work that way, guys. So you have to consider putting the money back in, especially in the beginning stages. I mean, it's this is why you have to know your vision. This is why you have to know what you're thriving for, because if you simply start a business, right? And you're just in it, oh, I just need to make some money. You're not going to be able to maintain, because the reality is a business is like a baby. They can't walk yet, they can't talk yet. You have to do everything for it. So you want to make sure that that is something that you actually have a calling for, that it's not just something that you're doing because it will wear you out. And if you don't have a strong why, you will waste your investment. So you want to make sure that you understand why you're getting into this business. Is this a calling for you, so that you're able to keep going even in the hard times? Because to be honest, the first couple of years, even just being honest, it's work, okay? It's gonna ask everything of you. It's gonna ask you for everything, especially in the startup stage. But the beauty about business is it keeps you, what would I say? It will pay off long term if you don't quit. This is why you have to have a strong why. This is why you have to know why you're doing it. Okay? When it comes to plan ahead, renewal fees and scaling opportunities, you have to keep those things in mind, because if not, you're just going to create another job for yourself. Okay? You want to think of a business as something that you will be able to uh not become a slave to. And to be honest, it's just what it is. The first couple years you are. I mean, there is no such thing as you getting paid. If you think you're going to start a tribal business and not have to give it even more than your actual other job, if this is something you're doing part-time, then good for you. But if this is something that you're going to consider doing and hope to transition out of what you're already doing, you have to already take into account, if you already have a family, this may be something that you can pursue, but you have to be realistic when it comes to understanding that business is not easy. I don't care how many people tell you, oh, you can go ahead and get an LLC and you'll get this amount of funding and you'll just grow. That sounds good, but the reality is it's not easy. So this is why you have to make sure that you are being strategic when it comes to it. And to be honest, sometimes you do go broke. Sometimes you do end up in situations. But again, this is why you have to make sure you're planning ahead. Are you able? Is it a business that even if you end up broke, even if you end up behind on your bills, is it something that you believe in? I think that's the biggest thing. Okay. So if you understand that, and if you are going, you can plan ahead, because planning ahead doesn't just mean scaling, it means also dealing with the world that we live in, which is there's a lot of things that are not guaranteed. So are you able to deal with that? Do you have, and to be honest, planning ahead is, do you have a family that can support that? If you are maybe someone who is married, do you have a supportive spouse in what you're doing? all of these things you should be considering because, to be honest, and I'm just gonna be transparent, I remember, like, my husband literally told me, like, "Okay, we're getting this office because I know that I can cover this if we don't have it." And that's sometimes the thing that you need when you are partnering and when you're starting a business and when you're growing is you need to know. And so planning ahead doesn't just involve finance, it means who are you partnering with? Who are the people around you? Are they going to be people who discourage you? Are they planning ahead also means, do I talk to people about this? Do I not talk to people about this? These are things that you have to take into account when it comes to running a business, guys. Okay? So plan ahead for the good days, the bad days, and scaling opportunities are important because if you do not, and this is again reinvesting in the business, if you're not reinvesting, you will not be able to scale when the time comes. And reinvesting doesn't just mean in the business, sometimes it means even in your mind, even in keeping yourself educated when it comes to your industry. So all of those things are important when it comes to you growing a or running a tribal business. And getting into what everyone should know about business, I mean, where do we begin, guys? When it comes to running a tribal business, what everyone should know about business. Well, to be honest, a lot, but we're going to cover these specific ones. When it comes to running a business, we're going to talk about business is service. What do we mean by that, y'all? What do you think business is service? Business is service. I love that. Business is service. So you get paid for solving problems. So if you think you're going to go into a business that you love, I'm going to tell you right now, most likely you're going to fail. Because at the end of the day, it needs to be serving people, not yourself. So if you're thinking just about what you need, then you're already going to put yourself in a bad situation. So again, business is service. You get paid for solving problems. They don't care how cute it is. People just want to know what you can do for them. That's the reality. Right. So you want to know that if you're going to be running a business, how are you going to be solving people's problem and how will you be doing that at a good rate? Even when it comes to setting up your hours, right? Let's say maybe you're starting a side hustle for the moment. What is your customer service hours going to look like? How are you going to manage your family if you have a family? You have to understand how you're going to be serving, how are you going to be delivering the results to people. This is why, we talk about processing time frames. All of these things are included because we want to make sure that we're setting the proper expectation for our people and for you guys who are coming into our jurisdiction, because again, expectation is very important. I remember when we ended up in the beginning of the year getting flooded, unfortunately, and neither here nor there, but the expectation was to we weren't prepared in that moment for that specific situation. And again, this is something that can happen where if you don't pivot quickly when things are changing, you can either crash the business, or you can lose out on future clientele. So you want to make sure that you are always considering the advancement of how your business is moving. Don't just treat it like a side hustle, even though again, it's okay if it is, but you want to treat it already like it's already not. We don't use the term small business over here, because we believe in big business. We believe in tribal entrepreneurship, but when we say entrepreneurship, we're talking about enterprise. So don't look at it just as a small business. Consider it something that will be long-term successful and be able to provide not only for you or your family, but for other people. So keep that in mind. But the only how you will be able to do that is the problems you solve. The bigger the problem, guess what, guys? The bigger the payout. So if you want to make money, don't consider the shortcuts, consider the big problems. Okay. Now, again, you can choose whatever industry you want, but that's really the reality. The bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the payout. Now, profit is power. Revenue fuels your freedom. So this is why it's important to make sure that you are pricing yourself properly, being able to meet the expectation of people, because again, you cannot run a business on zero. So you know you cannot just keep giving everything away for free. The reality is we do come from a, because of how we've operated in society a lot of times we are not comfortable with money. Therefore we try to just make enough, I guess, is the way to put it. But then you're not considering what would that look like when it comes to building a team. If you're not considering the pricing that you're making, and the service that you're offering, then you're doing a disservice for the future of the business. So you want to make sure that you're setting the proper expectations so that you're able to grow the business, right? So again, revenue fuels your freedom. Revenue, if you're not considering the money aspect and you're just thinking about the service, that is beautiful, but you also need to partner that with realistic expectation on how this business should be moving forward. So don't just put, oh, this is the price because I think it sounds good. No, investigate your market, investigate what people are charging, and compare that to what you can offer, and work on possibly scaling that and seeing how that could fit into possibly a, not just one person staffing, but maybe two or three people staffing. Because again, those things are very important. So don't just think small. You need to think realistic, but think on how long term you will be able to grow. And growing is really to be able to serve more people, right? So you want to make sure that you're not pushing yourself out, because guess what? If you do not put the proper pricing up front, what's going to happen is now you're going to end up in another job where you're not even able to solve the problems, right? And again, business is service. So if you're not able to be available to run the business, then the business is failing, right? So you want to make sure that you're considering those things. And consistency builds legacy. Daily action compounds over time. That's the reality, guys. You cannot expect that you're putting in an hour or 0 hours a day and you're going to compete against the people who are putting in all the hours, right? You want to make sure that you are understanding that you are, again, we already have our own lane. This is a beautiful thing that we have within our jurisdiction where people can grow. But the reality is, you have to be involved in your business, promoting your business, selling. You have to be consistent if you're going to build a legacy. If you're going to treat it like a part time thing, it will give you part time results. Right. And no one wants that. So if you want to be successful, you have to be consistent. You can't treat it just like, it's not important. You have to understand it is important. So you want to make sure that you are investing in your business with your time. Your business will give you back exactly what you put in. That's to be honest, that's the beauty of the business. A business can, it will give you exactly the time. Now, again, in the beginning stages, you have to put in a lot more and a lot more. But if you are consistent, eventually you will be able to reduce that. And but the reality is, if you want to be a business that grows long term, you have to be consistent. And compliance, guys, equal protection. Stay in good standing to protect your business. When it comes to the things that we're telling you guys, you want to make sure that you're doing these things, because especially when it comes to your tax exempt status, for us to be able to protect those things, again, you have to file every year. We assist you with your business. So that is something that you should reach out to our team to learn a little bit more about, so that your business is in compliance, because we have to notify the IRS every year about your business when it comes to making sure that they are aware that, all the earnings that you're making is not taxable, and just making sure that they understand the relationship that you have when it comes to our jurisdiction. And that being said, top 5 mistakes to avoid. Where can we begin mixing personal and business money? Get that bank account, y'all. Okay? Make sure you get your bank account. When you start your business, you get your document. You should be scheduling a meeting with a bank within a week or two. Okay, don't sit on it, get it done. Forgetting annual filing, lose your good standing. Stay compliant with Aboriginal Ministry of Justice when it comes to your tribal business. Not pricing correctly, leading to no profit. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Know your worth, guys. Know your worth. And keep in mind, guys, it's especially when it comes to business, you're not here if you the problem is so many times we think we have to sell to everybody and it creates a problem because you don't need to sell to everyone to be successful, but you need to specialize in the areas that you're in. Okay. So don't worry about everybody. Your service may not be for everybody, but make sure you're serving the people that do matter. Make sure that you are showing up for those people, your people. Okay. And then ignoring contracts or skipping documentation. Don't do that. Okay. Do not do that because receipts, contracts protect you. Even if you don't enforce them right away, you have a better opportunity. What do we mean by that? Ignoring contracts or skipping, meaning that you just want to get documents. You just want to get you're just ready to collect the money. So you're not taking any steps to ensuring that, your business is being protected. So you don't want to ignore, especially depending on the type of business that you have contracts. Let's say you have a daycare, maybe a tribal business daycare, right? And you're accepting clients and you're just collecting the money. And now, for some reason, something happens and you don't have any contract to show that you were responsible. So again, if we don't normally have where am I going with this? I'm just saying, I want you guys to make sure that you're treating your business like it's a big deal because it is. Okay. And trying to do everything alone. Mentorship matters. And we will be coming up, as we continue to grow, I will be having separate private, the goal is to bring you guys some more resources when it comes to growing your businesses and making sure that you guys have the mentorship you need to scale. But again, we're talking about business 101. So let's stick to that. But again, just take a screenshot if you haven't already. Keep that so that you're able to remember. And again, very important as you move forward. Understanding your numbers. Uh, know your costs. What it takes to make or deliver your product or service. See, that is the key thing. So many times we're just making up numbers, especially when we're coming into business. When you're running a tribal business, you need to know what does it cost to deliver a service, the time, the energy, the 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 product. You have to know what it costs to make, what it costs to deliver it. Those are all things that you should be considering when it comes to running a tribal business, right? Know your costs. Set profitable prices. Cover costs plus yourself, plus create margin for growth. If you're going to have a team, eventually, which should always be your priority, is growing, you have to consider setting profitable prices. It's just what it is, guys. Do not be scared because people will feel some type of way. But the reality is, if a business is going to be able to grow, you have to have profitable fees so that you're able to maintain that business, support that business, support yourself so that you're able to continue showing up in the business and supporting your team. You should never be looking at your business as, oh, it's just me. Always consider the growth that's coming and everything else because once that is understood, then you know what your prices should look like, right? And track revenue and expenses. Monthly tracking keeps you in control. This is something that we all, if we're already business owners, this is something we all can always improve to make sure that we have everything covered when it comes to our expenses and knowing how things are moving within the business, because again, once you're seeing that, you can see, okay, am I spending more and not seeing a profit? Why is that? So all of those things are tangible things that you can use to advance the business. And plan for growth. Reinvest profits into marketing, staffing, equipment. That is, do not I see a common mistake that many people have is they want to, instead of investing in another team member of on their company, they think that they're going to save money by just doing it themselves. But the reality is the more you try to do things yourself, the more you're going to stunt your business growth. Okay? Because now the business cannot function without you there. And guess what? If you're um the visionary behind the business, you cannot be always doing everything because then you're not able to focus on the vision and the mission of the business, which is where you are supposed to be, especially as you're growing the business. So always consider a plan for growth, okay? And protecting your business. And just to make sure you guys are still there, drop some love in the comments so I know you guys can hear me well. Let me know you guys can hear me. Give me some love, y'all. You know that we're still good. Bear with me, y'all. We're going good. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, and I see the questions. We're definitely gonna answer some of those in the end. But give me some love, y'all. Can you guys still hear me? How's everything? And feel free to drop your comments, your questions, anything that you have during this conversation, and I will take 5 minutes when I'm finished to answer those for you. But okay, okay, awesome, you guys. You can hear me. So, getting into protecting your business, very simple. Keep your articles of organization, your EIN, your tax exempt certificate safe. You always want to make sure you make copies of your documents, so that you don't you don't want to just lose those. When it comes to considering, I do want you guys to consider business insurance for liability or equipment. Keep in mind, no, our tribal business are not LLCs, but that doesn't mean you don't have protection. So you do need to consider getting insurance. Business insurance is very affordable. So just look into a couple options to see how you're making sure that you have coverage when it comes to your business. Have signed contracts with vendor clients and partners and even employees, guys. This is something that's major, especially when it comes to protecting your business, is you want to make sure that everything that you're interacting in, when it comes to your company, that you have record of that, because eventually you can always enforce something if you need be. Okay. And maintain digital copies of all critical documents. You should always be scanning your documents. Make sure you have scanned copies of everything, important contracts, everything. Keep a digital folder with those information so that you're able to keep track of those things. But just some basic steps to keep in mind when it comes to running your tribal business and building your brand. Name, logo, message. What does that mean for you? You understand? You gotta make it memorable. What will people think when they hear your business name? What do you want them to understand by just hearing your name, right? Reputation, of course. How you're serving people, guess what? Word gets around. And what I love about reputation, guys, is even though um, people can, let's say there may be a lying customer somewhere that, try to ruin your reputation. It's okay. Because the reality is more people will interact with you and they will know how you show up. So you want to make sure that you are delivering excellence so people trust your business. And to be honest, that is something that will always outlast, regardless of what people try to say or what people try to do. You will outlast if you are consistently considering your reputation. One of the things that I've noticed is this is an area that you can beat many people in your industry or anyone trying to do something similar to you, is if you are consistent when it comes to your reputation. Regardless of what people may want to say, if you are consistent, eventually it will shine through. So always consider delivering excellence, okay? And visibility is the other one. Use social media, community events, word of mouth. That should not be something you are in this day and age. This is something that you should be optimizing in. Okay. This is something you should be making sure that you are known, that your business is known. Do not take this lightly. Get the social media handles for all of your business. Make sure that you, and just a quick tip, guys, before you even start a business, see if it's already available. The name, look it up on social media. See, are people already using it? Because the biggest issue sometimes is you just go ahead and let's say you start the business and you pick a name that is already being used. It sucks. So make sure that you are researching, even when it comes to before you make a payment to start a business, the basic things you should cover is this available on social media? Is the domain available? And is the name already very known somewhere else? Because you don't want to infringe upon someone else's name either. So you want to always consider those things, right? And connection. Show customers you care, not just sell to them. What do we mean by that, guys? What do you think that means? Means you need to make sure that people, that's one of the saddest things that I've noticed within specifically within our community, unfortunately, where many people treat it like, once they get that payment, it's like now they're just on to the next. May that not be your case, okay? Please create a good reputation for your business because you are a reflection of our nation. So you don't want to just be a bad example of bad service out here. Because again, keep in mind, they're going to say, oh, the Shiamaru tribal government or business or whatever. So you want to make sure that because again, being a part of our nation and being a part of our jurisdiction, you're not just reflecting yourself, you're reflecting your nation. So make sure you're considering those things when you are offering services, okay? And leveraging community and collaboration, guys. Partner with other. Now, again, what we do have coming up, guys, is we hopefully by next month, we should have a list of active businesses, inactive businesses, and we are planning to make sure that, because again, when people research your business, they should be able to find it on our platform. So we're going to start doing that. But collaborate, guys. Show your business. Support other citizens by hiring them and buying tribal made products. This is a time where we are able to invest back into ourselves as a collective, making our dollar circle back into our community. So consider that. Host events, pop ups, or workshop or attract more people. Keep in mind, too, we will be offering opportunities for those who are in our areas, even though we are planning to have more. We are looking to have more locations very soon, but those who are in the Memphis area, we will be offering opportunities where you guys will be able to come and provide services within our facilities and be able to host events and things of that nature. So just keep on the lookout, when it comes to what we have going on, but we are working to serve you guys. And again, guys, these are opportunities for you guys to grow. So don't take them lightly when they come up. And mentor the next generation of entrepreneurs. Like that's also something that you should be considering when it comes to leveraging your community and collaborating. And funding and scaling, guys. Start where you are. Use savings, family support, microloans, whatever you need to do. The reality is the rat race, whether you're in the rat race, you're working a 9 to 5, whatever you're trying to do, the reality is nothing is safe. Okay. So consider starting right where you are, getting it together, and going after something that will pay off long term. Is it easy? No, I think it's very I think people do a big disservice the way they try to target, these types of opportunities because it sets the wrong expectations for many people to think that just starting a business means that money is just going to be flowing. That's not realistic. But the reality is you can scale, but what's going to determine that is your consistency. And during this time, guys, while you're going to be scaling, our tribal businesses are able to build credit just like any other business. The only one of the major primary difference, and if you haven't watched our video, make sure to go watch our video, Creating a Tribal Business, so you can learn a little bit more about how our businesses function and how they operate. But that being said, it builds business credit just like any other business that is in the other jurisdiction. The key difference to running a tribal entity or a tribal business, which is also known as a tribal entity, is it's not it's not reported like with the Secretary of State. That's the primary thing that you will understand when it comes to, because again, it's registered within our jurisdiction, so therefore we are the reference point on verification when it comes to a business. So that is something that a lot of times people get confused about, but again, neither here nor there. And then you can see grant or contracts. So some some may be available, there are many. So even if we're not advertising, guys, specific grant opportunities or things, you have access to, if you are someone within our jurisdiction, you have access to Indigenous programs and grants offer in tribal business. Now, we do fall under we're not federally recognized, but you do have access to pursuing those opportunities, and we are working to create hopefully more content around those things and even work to bring more resources to our community so that we can distribute. But that being said, those things are available to you. So make sure that you're pursuing, whatever industry you're in, research what's even in the state that you're in, you may have access to grant opportunities by having your tribal business. So consider that when you're looking into, and those things will be labeled under native or things of that nature. So just look and see what's available. And keep in mind, you still have access as well to like any minority programs or things of that nature. Just because you are a Xi-Amaru Native American doesn't mean that you lose access to the opportunities that are available, but you want to make sure that you are pursuing opportunities in your proper status because, again, you have a bigger pool to seek assistance in. And then expand strategically. Add product, service, or locations when demands increase, okay? That's important for growth. The spiritual side of business, guys. Now, we can say a lot about, oh, you can do this, you can do that, and you'll grow and you'll become, successful. But the reality, business is spiritual, because the reality is when you are, what's the word I'm looking for? When your back's against the wall and you don't know who to call, you need to call on God, because there's going to be a lot that goes on within a business that you will not be able to mentally be able to cope with. But I will say if you have the right foundation, you can withstand the storm. I love 1 Corinthians 3:6. It says, I plant the seed, Apollo watered it, but God has been making it grow. Mm, mm, mm. That does something to my soul. So what does that mean, guys? You do your part, plant the idea, take action, stay faithful. Others may help, which is great. You may get mentors, partners, and customers water the business. That's the good part. But God gives the increase, okay? True prosperity comes from him. That is the key thing if you're going to sustain your business. Um, Faith plus work equal growth. Build with prayer, integrity, and intelligence, you guys. That is how you're gonna be able to run your tribal business long term, not just tomorrow, not just because you need money today or you're looking for something, but building a spiritual foundation will be the key thing that keeps you in business, even in the times where nothing makes sense. Okay. So, that being said, guys, take action. Okay. We need you guys to get started. If you are in our nation and you have been sitting on the sidelines waiting for the next opportunity, I want you to consider this as your sign to get started. And to learn more about that, just go to our website, aboriginalministryofjustice.org, and you will be able to get started and learn a little bit more. If you have questions, make sure to consider booking an appointment. Keep in mind, guys, when it comes to tribal businesses, we have opportunities for people who may already be an entrepreneur who already have a business. You can consider transferring your business into a tribal entity, and you can learn more about that by setting up an appointment and speaking with our tribal legal representatives. And and someone who maybe simply want to start a new business. These are opportunities for you to consider. The larger vision, guys. Now, that being said, before I get into that part, I just want to say I want to go over building momentum. You understand? Like, market with purpose, guys. Tell your story, share your why. That's going to be the key in getting people to recognize your business, being able to pour into it and support it. You never know what's going to be the thing, but you have to be clear on what it's going to be for you. And network boldly, collaborate with other Shiamaru entrepreneurs. And again, we're working on building that network up because we already have a couple tribal businesses within our jurisdiction, and we do want to provide more spotlight on those businesses. But guys, keep in mind, if we're going to put spotlights on you, you got to make sure you're doing your part, building with integrity, building a legacy that can last. And again, leverage. This may sound a little tricky, but keep in mind, leverage your status. Guess what? You are in your own lane over here. Take advantage of it. Tribal presence can win you contracts, it can win you opportunity. Don't take that lightly. Reinvest, grow your business, hire staff, fund community projects. That's how we're going to keep growing our companies. That's how we're going to keep doing what is necessary, guys. The larger vision, tribal businesses equal engine of renewal. Reverse misclassification and exclusion. What does it restore? Opportunity, identity, economic strength, generational wealth. Business equals healing. Business equals reparation. Business equals legacy. Okay? Your business is more than a business. It's nation building. It's restoration. It's a weapon of freedom. Each new tribal business is one more brick in the future of our people, guys. And that's powerful. That's something that I am consistently seeking to support and grow. And I know that as we continue to move forward and bring awareness, we are creating a strong future for our people. My final remarks is you guys need to take action. The reality is we can provide. I love a saying where they say, you can take someone to a well, but you can't make them drink. Because it's so true. We are here consistently working to provide you guys opportunities and to assist us as we repair the damages that we have experienced within society and provide opportunities where our people can finally build on a foundation where it's supported by people like us for people like us, right? But again, it is up to us to take the tools and use them and build. And thank you guys for joining me tonight. I'm going to answer some quick questions before we go. I'm going to take 5 minutes for that and see what you guys were saying in here. But thank you guys for joining me tonight. We have more coming up, but feel free to send us, leave some comments, some recommendation in the bottom so that we know, other content you guys may want to hear. And let's see here. I see someone say, What if someone wants to start their own security company? That's a beautiful question. So, that is something that is possible within our jurisdiction, guys. You can start as long as it's illegal, I guess I should say that. As long as it's a lawful business, you can most likely start anything primarily within our jurisdiction. The only thing you cannot start is medical. And when we say medical, natural, yes, but you cannot create like a hospital, let's say, right? You're not going to be doing surgery on anyone. That is not something that we currently support, but you are able to start providing certain services. But I do recommend if you have any questions about your specific industry that you want to go into, I do recommend setting up an appointment with our team so that we can just walk you through that. But primarily, when it comes to the industry, we will ask you that on your application, what industry you're going to be going into, and get a little more detail on what you're going to be doing. But for the most part, if it's a lawful business, service business, then you can most likely create a tribal entity within our jurisdiction and operate. Now, in some cases, depending on what it is, there it's very unlikely, but it is possible that certain things may require licensing within the other jurisdiction, but that's a very slim chance depending on what it is specifically. But again, if you want further clarity on that, we recommend setting up an appointment so that we can just understand a little bit more about your particular case. But I hope that clears that up. And then I see someone say, "What if I would like to open something with education, K-12?" Oh, yes. Bring the lessons on. Yes, that is definitely something we are needing in our jurisdiction. Keep in mind, guys, we also offer certification, which is something that is necessary so that you can have proper documentation to show. And I do think someone was asking about that. I got to check that. But we do provide certifications for education, different levels of to make sure that you guys have the proper documentation in the event that you need to provide that to the other jurisdiction. So consider getting licensed so you can get a tribal business. You can also receive licensing so that you have the proper certifications to show that you are in your tribal jurisdiction operating that entity. But yes, we do need more teachers, guys. We need more doulas, midwives, I mean, farmers, whatever you have, whatever skills you have up until this point, I truly believe it was for a time as this. So do not take it lightly, all the experience that you currently have, and think that you need to go into some other industry. Bring those skills, bring those experience over to our jurisdiction, and let's build together. And I'm going to answer one more. And someone says, "Can you transfer a business over into a tribal one?" Yes, yes, you can bring that business over into our jurisdiction. We would need to verify a couple things, but it will be the same start process. So you just would go ahead and initiate that process directly on our website. And then during the application stage, you will notify us that it's already an entity, and we would just need additional documents concerning your business. So we would need the prior EIN, different things, but we would be responsible to notify the IRS in regards to the change. But all we would need from you is making sure that you're able to provide us everything that we need, but we handle pretty much everything from there. But I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and join us for the next event. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, guys, go to aboriginalministryofjustice.org. Go to the bottom, put in your email, put in your information. That way you're also getting emails from us when we are sending them out. And that's pretty much it, you guys. Appreciate y'all. Have a good one.